looks like I'm live. Um, yeah, I've been trying to come back on and go live for a while now, but adjusting to doing this channel's taken a bit more out of. I was going to say it took a bit more out of me than I thought so far, but no, that's not really true. I expected it to take quite a bit, so it's taking what I expected, but it's quite a bit. And I don't know, I'm not really sure what I have to say at the moment. It's about 20 after 2, and I took sleeping pills a while ago, which have kicked in, the same as last time I did a stream. It seems one side effect of it is it lowers my inhibition. Although it also makes me misspeak a bit. I watched some of my last live stream and I mixed up words a couple times. Said years when I meant months once, something like that. Stuff like that. So anyway, I don't really know if this is worth doing, but I didn't think the last live stream was going to be either, and some people seem to like it. Seems like I've got a couple people watching already. Okay, Elliot, so just took sleeping pills himself about an hour ago. Yeah, it's pleasant to take them a couple hours ahead of when you're actually going to bed, I find. And I do just want to say to everybody that took the time to comment on the last video, or all the videos we've done, Ryan's as well. Although I'm not responding very much, I am reading everything, and we do really appreciate the feedback. I was surprised how positive people were in the comment section of the other live stream I did. I really didn't intend to leave it up. I was just popping on as an experiment and intended to delete it right away. Also from the comments, Gloff, if you watch this, yeah, I did see that you want to come on at some point, and definitely talk to Ryan about that, and we'll set it up sometime, whether you want to talk one-on-one or with both of us. But anyway, yeah, definitely we'll talk sometime. Also, Skylar, if you watch this at some point, I don't know if Ryan's gotten back to you or not yet, but yeah, we're interested in talking to you as well. Overall, I was really surprised at the feedback on the last stream, and I don't really have anything to say, but so far that's how I've entered every conversation. Was just... And I guess, yeah, usually, other than the other live stream, I've got someone I'm talking to. But usually not much in the way of prepared topics, and I've just been going off the fly. So, one thing I guess maybe I'll say is that, like Peterson and like Sam Harris, I take honesty to an extreme degree. For me, it's even of like sacred importance. But I am not internally consistent. So in different moods, I feel differently about things. Also on many topics, I really do see both sides and choose to engage one or the other. Also, I find that when my moods change, it does alter my memory. Or even just as time passes, your memories alter. And so rather than attempting to be consistent in any way, I'm going to try to be honest about how I'm feeling, thinking, and remembering things at any one moment. And I think that if I attempted consistency, I would end up having to be dishonest. That if I remembered something one way once, and I remembered I said it, that I would feel a need to stick to that, even if I'm remembering it differently. So I'm not going to strive for consistency, and I am at times going to say the opposite of what I've said before. And that's just my attempt to present myself as honestly as possible. So there's a couple people watching. I don't know if anyone has anything in particular they want to talk about. I'd read through a bunch of the comments before coming on and had specific things to say about them, and I'm fucking totally blanking on it now. Alan something commented on our newest video that he was finding our content really helpful with some sort of problems he was having in his family at the moment. So Alan, if you watch this, or if anyone's finding this useful, more specific feedback on how it helped. Of course, like, don't reveal anything private you don't want to, but any specific feedback about why the fuck you feel like watching this lunatic ramble will help me try to provide better ramblings in the future. Oh, hey, Andrew's on. How you doing, man? Talk about anything you feel like. Skylar from... No, I do not believe it's Skylar from Alchemical Secrets. I watched a few of his videos back when you had a talk with him. I think it's somebody different, although I could be wrong about that. Right. I have this just in case I didn't have much to say. I thought I would share something I found very useful from the book Siddhartha. So Peterson often says that it seems like more people can listen than read. So I'm not sure what that question meant. Okay, so I'm going to read 2 pages out of this that I particularly like. For anyone who has Siddhartha on your reading list and you don't want a spoiler, just jump ahead. On the other hand, it's not like this book is exactly a mystery, so I don't really see this as much of a spoiler. But I found when I first read this, it just spelled out a lot of things I'd been thinking about recently, like before reading this book. And so I'm just going to jump in at a random point where Govinda is meeting with Siddhartha towards the end of the book when they're both old. Govinda said, "It seems to me, Siddhartha, that you still like to jest a little. I believe you and know that you have not followed any teacher. But have you not yourself, if not a doctrine, certain thoughts? Have you not discovered certain knowledge yourself that has helped you to live? It would give me great pleasure if you would tell me something about this." Siddhartha said, "Yes, I have had thoughts and knowledge here and there, sometimes for an hour or for a day. I have become aware of knowledge, just as one feels life in one's heart. I have had many thoughts, but it would be difficult for me to tell you about them. But this is one thought that has impressed me, Govinda. Wisdom is not communicable. The wisdom which a wise man tries to communicate always sounds foolish." "Are you jesting?" asked Govinda. "No, I am telling you what I have discovered. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, be fortified by it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. I suspected this when I was still a youth, and it was this that drove me away from teachers. There is one thought I have had, Govinda, which you will again think is jest or folly. That is, in every truth, the opposite is equally true. For example, a truth can only be expressed and enveloped in words if it is one-sided. Everything that is thought and expressed in words is one-sided, only half the truth. It all lacks totality, completeness, unity. When the illustrious Buddha taught about the world, he had to divide it into samsara and nirvana, into illusion and truth, into suffering and salvation. One cannot do otherwise. There is no other method for those who teach. But the world itself, being in and around us, is never one-sided. Never is a man or a deed holy samsara or holy nirvana. Never is a man wholly a saint or a sinner. This only seems so because we suffer the illusion that time is something real. Time is not real, Govinda. I have realized this repeatedly. And if time is not real, then the dividing line that seems to lie between this world and eternity, between suffering and bliss, between good and evil, is also an illusion. How is that? Govinda asked, puzzled. Listen, my friend, I am a sinner and you are a sinner. But someday that sinner will be Brahma again, will someday attain nirvana, will someday become a Buddha. Now, this someday is illusion. It is only a comparison. The sinner is not on the way to a Buddha-like state. He is not evolving, although our thinking cannot conceive things otherwise. No, the potential Buddha already exists in the sinner. His future is already there. The potential hidden Buddha must be recognized in him, in you, in everybody. The world, Govinda, is not imperfect or slowly evolving along a long path to perfection. No, it is perfect at every moment. Every sin always carries grace within it. All small children are potential old men. All sucklings have death within them. All dying people, eternal life. It is not possible for one person to see how far another is on the way. The Buddha exists in the robber and the dice player. The robber exists in the Brahmin. During deep meditation, it is possible to dispel time, to see simultaneously all the past, present, and future, and then everything is good. Everything is perfect. Everything is Brahman. Therefore, it seems to me that everything that exists is good. Death as well as life, sin as well as holiness, wisdom as well as folly. Everything is necessary. Everything needs only my agreement, my assent, my loving understanding. Then all is well with me and nothing can harm me. I learned through my body and soul that it was necessary for me to sin, that I needed lust, that I had to strive for property and experience nausea and the depths of despair in order to learn not to resist them, in order to learn to love the world and no longer compare it with some kind of desired imaginary world, some imaginary vision of perfection, but to leave it as it is, to love it and be glad to belong to it. These, Govinda, are some of the thoughts that are in my mind. And so that's something that I find incredibly powerful for a number of reasons. First of all, the idea that for every truth, the opposite is equally true. There is so much more to reality than what we can capture in words, and so much more to reality than what we can even understand at any one time. And so the fact that some doctrines or some thinkers appear to completely contradict one another doesn't bother me in any way. I believe in a larger picture in which Peterson's perspective illuminates a certain portion, Sam Harris's another, Alan Watts another perspective. And I know that the way he talks about loving the world just as it is and not comparing it into some ideal seems like it conflicts entirely with the idea of trying to tilt the world towards the good and, the whole Petersonian improve yourself, improve the world, move forward. But again, I think that's just a matter of the limitation of expressing any one point. And I think It's just separate states that are different tools for interpreting the world, and they each have their time and place. So Elliot likes that book. Yeah, cool. I don't know. I seem to be blanking on what to say. So I will just completely change topics for the moment. Seeing that Andrew is here, and the last time you and I talked, you said that if I was willing, you would like to hear on like some about what it is I am working on. So my own personal sort of sorting, I guess, is mostly wrapped around family things, which I don't want to get into too much detail at the moment, but I'm putting a lot of focus on my wife and kids. And beyond that is taking over this channel, which is going to take a significant amount to adjust to. I've lived a long time very, very, very cut off from the world, at a nice distance, working on myself in ways that I really never expected to be explaining or sharing with anybody. I was quite content with a more cut off life, and this is just something that happened from me following the breadcrumbs of what's been leading me forward. I can say that at the moment, Ryan's busy, so I'm not sure when he'll be able to pop back on, but he's pretty busy at the moment with school. And I know that for him, taking over the channel has been, I think for him, it has been more than he expected with everything else he has going on. But I think he's doing a great job so far. We've been steadily losing viewers, but it's been ticking up and down the whole way as it drops. So we're in a weird situation of not having any idea how many new subscribers we have, because more old subscribers are canceling or unsubscribing still at a fairly steady pace, which is something we expected. I don't know. Let's see. We've got 3-4 people on. Anyone feel like saying anything? And so for me taking over the channel, I'm doing it just in a very experimental way. I didn't start off with a grand vision of what to do with it. What's up? Just a late night ramble attempting to provide a little more content here, because Ryan's under a lot of stress, and I think he'll feel better about not worrying about the channel if I do a little bit on it. And so I came into this very open-minded. I'm still not sure exactly what this is going to become, or even if I'm going to continue to do it long term. You guys all know, I'm completely fucking crazy, and opening up to the world like this is a pretty big step for me, and I'm not sure how it's going to go. So I'm not making any long-term promises, but if this seems to be good for me, or at least not too bad for me, and is helping anyone else, I will do my best here. Okay, so Andrew, talk about conversations with my angel. Okay, maybe I'll get to that in a moment. What are my plans for this channel, or the theme, shall we say? Okay, so I came in completely open-minded. When I first did a live stream, it was really just something I was going to put down. I just wanted to see if I could get some feedback. But my Late night rambling appealed to people. Ryan really liked it. So this will be regular content. And Ryan also will sometimes be going on live by himself. If you're a fan of me coming on late night live and just rambling, I've decided I'll title each one Lunatic Live and then the subtitle. But that way, if you see a notification sorting myself out as live and it says Lunatic Live, you know that's me. So this is content that I will do sporadically whenever I feel up to it. On top of that, I still think, even though more people are posting Peterson clips, like Andrew was one of the early ones to get it going, there's a lot more people doing it now, but I still intend to keep up with that. So much of the clips about Peterson are political stuff, and he has so many little gems that don't get posted much and get buried under all the more contentious interviews. So when I'm probably not going to like go back through Peterson stuff searching for it, but anytime I'm watching his stuff and I find something useful, I watched the live Q&A today and made a couple notes for some clips to post. So when Peterson says something that is something I also believe had come up with on my own, or something I find particularly useful and not out there as much, we'll continue putting up some clips like that. Maybe also sometimes doing commentary on them. On top of that, both me and Ryan are liking the idea of having audience members on as guests. So I've talked to his friend Rob so far, and then we both talked to Nolan, who was a longtime viewer of the channel back when Andrew did it. And those conversations went great. I enjoyed meeting both of them. So having the audience on more is definitely something we're going to continue with. Ryan will be doing, like, both of us will do some content on our own, and we'll do a certain amount of content together. Although we give each other feedback on our own content. Ryan's going to be following up on his sorting himself out. So he had done something recently with, he did a video about preparing to film Tim and Ken Wilber. He's going to continue content like that, what he's working on, his schedule for the week. And he's going to have some conversations with Tim Freak, a conversation between him and Ken Wilber. We'll be posting that soon. Those are things he's filming. And I would also, both of us are interested in continuing to talk to like psychologists or authors or things like that. So there might be more of that content. Also, sometimes just discussions between me and Ryan on certain philosophical concepts or what's on our mind at the moment. So those are the kind of things we're thinking about right now, but I'm also very open-minded about experimenting with different stuff as well. Okay, Dust to Dust, welcome to the club, being crazy that is. Yeah, I've been crazy since 2006. So yeah, I've been in the club for quite a while, and yeah, I'm cool with it. I've pretty much integrated my insanity, and it has its downsides and its upsides. Okay, and so where's Blonde in the Belly of the Beast? Where's Andrew? I'm out of the loop. Hope he's okay. Andrew is doing fucking awesome. He found that doing the channel, he put out too much personal stuff on the channel that he later regretted. And also, once he got things sorted out and had something to really move forward with, he felt doing the channel was holding him back. And so he's doing really good right now. I don't want to give away any of his sort of too much personal information because that's the whole idea of him stepping out. We might have him back at some point if he wants to. Although, again, a lot of this is about he just wants to live privately now. But I can let you know, out of all the goals he set for himself, He's doing very well in so many of them, like extremely well. Some things he's still struggling with a bit, but I was just talking to him. I'm talking to him about once a week at the moment. He's using me instead of the YouTube channel to hold him responsible and go over his weekly schedule. But I think he's got some bright things in the future. And when he left the when he decided to stop doing the channel, he didn't want to just abandon the audience. So he asked me and Ryan Holsapple to take over the channel together. So we're going to be running it from here on out. But yeah, maybe one day Andrew will pass on some news through me, or maybe he'll decide to come back on one day and give people maybe even just a tiny idea about what he's been doing. And Blonde in the Belly of the Beast, if I'm not mistaken, you had spoken to Andrew on his channel. I might be thinking of someone else. Is that you that I would be thinking of, that you did a video with him? You have your own channel? Okay. Classic Anti-Zero, I completely forgot about Andrew due to not getting any notifications. It's the first one I've gotten in a while, and now he's gone. Sorry, yes, you missed it. Andrew was but a brief, fleeting moment of inspiration in our lives. So you will just have to treasure the memories. Okay, Blonde, yep, that was you. Okay, cool. I watched it. I don't really remember so much what you guys talked about, but I remembered liking it. And so definitely, since you were a guest back when Andrew ran it, if you ever want to come on and talk to me or Ryan or both of us, just let us know. Any friend of Andrew's is a friend of mine. So if you're interested in talking sometime, yeah, you can check out the channel. Ryan's got some stuff posted of his own. And that goes for anybody, audience members, people with their own channels, even if it's very small, or yeah, if anyone bigger, authors, psychologists, or anyone see this and are interested in talking, you can always specify when you write in. Just write into the channel. I think it's Sorting Myself Out 0. Anyway, Ryan will post it somewhere on the channel, our email. And he runs all the intake process and arranging everything. But anyone at all who wants to talk to us, just shoot an email to the channel, and you can specify if you want to speak to one of us specifically or both. And so let's see. Sure. Okay, cool. All right. So we've got something for the audience to look forward to. Blonde in the Belly of the Beast will be appearing on here sometime. Andrew was a pretty regular guy. If you really are crazy, that could be more interesting. Yeah, man. I'm like completely fucking crazy. I'm bipolar type 1. I've been dragged into mental institutions against my will, had complete psychotic breaks. And yeah, I'm still completely crazy. I go through a yearly cycle that's synced up with the seasons. So my mania starts kicking in the spring. I get manic throughout the summer. Then my mood crashes in the fall, and I'm extremely depressed through the winter. Dust to dust, been there, done that. Okay, cool. And yeah, so anyone here who's crazy might be interested in a talk I did last week with Ryan's friend Rob. He's also bipolar, but bipolar type 2. And we discussed ways he can avoid ending up back in the mental institution next time he has a psychotic break. So anyone dealing with that may find that conversation interesting. But I'm also not just here to talk to crazy people. The reason I got doing these podcasts is both Andrew and Ryan, neither of whom I would describe as mad, found talking to me useful. Also, people interested in getting into therapy or those kind of things. Students studying to be psychologists or psychiatrists, anyone who likes, who would be interested in talking for that reason. Another reason that I'd definitely be interested in, that caught my attention. I don't know what the fuck I was saying. Good time to start doing videos, I guess, is the spring. Yeah, taking over the channel came a little early for me. It's still the end of winter. I guess the spring equinox is in 2 days, although it's still pretty cold here. But yeah, at whatever point that I finally shear my winter coat here, most years I wait until the first nice hot day where I want to get out in the sun before I shave my beard and head. But I was thinking maybe this year of doing it on the equinox and see if I can bring that spring energy a little earlier with that ritual. Okay, so I feel Dust to Dust is saying I feel rather healthy now, though. Had massive PTSD for a while, but that seems to have worn itself out. Yeah, I'm not that much less crazy. I'm still very crazy, but I'm doing quite well with it. And I also had post-traumatic stress disorder. My bipolar was sort of initiated by getting hit by a bus, and I had PTSD with that. It's improved significantly. And yeah, so I'm glad that you're doing better. And if I know it's hard to write much in this, but if you're interested once this goes up and putting in the comments, if you feel like sharing with people what has helped you to be doing better, I'd be very interested to read it. Okay, so Andrew says he left the channel abruptly. He's working on making more of a proper goodbye update on progress video. Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, that's great that you're gonna say hi to everyone again and people can see how you're doing. Okay, and Skylar Jensen. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I mentioned you earlier. So Ryan just forwarded me your email the other day. And yeah, we are definitely interested in talking with you. Ryan's pretty busy with stuff at the moment, so I don't know if he's gotten back to you yet, but he will be getting back to you soon to arrange a time. He's got a lot going on this week with filming Ken Wilber, and he has a couple papers due in school. So I'm not sure when we'll get around to talking, but let us know if you are most comfortable talking to me, most comfortable talking to him, or if you want to do like Nolan and talk to both of us. Yeah, bipolar. The thing that's kept me together is hope and my faith. I know it's not for everyone, but having an anchor through all the storm helps. Okay, same for me. My spiritual faith has been fundamental in getting my bipolar under control. And throughout the years, especially when it was difficult, I went back and forth to a certain degree. At some points, I tried to just look at it completely rationally from the psychiatric point of view and tried to put all thoughts of God and metaphysics out of my head. That just did not work well. And it seems to me like again, not all, but a certain portion of people with bipolar and schizophrenia have a intense interaction with either gods, angels, archetypes, and have immense faith, especially when in the manic period, that can become embarrassing in the depressed period. But I found developing my own concept of good and evil my own understanding of the nature of reality and the more metaphysical stuff was really necessary, while at the same time integrating scientific and psychiatric viewpoints as well, like trying to integrate as many possible traditions to understand myself. But a belief in God for me has been fundamental as well. So Skylar says, yeah, agreed. Definitely came to realize that there was a PTSD after a certain mystical experience to kick things off with bipolar. And mystical experiences can be the whole range, just like drugs, where you can have intense, euphoric, blissful, enlightening interactions with angels or God himself that is just nothing but rapture and joy and even feels enlightening, and you walk away from it with deeper understanding. On the other time, you can also have bad trips on drugs and mystic experiences that become very dark and disturbing. So mysticism, shamanism, magic, and hallucinogenic drugs are all very magical tools, but need to be used carefully. And I do find that in the entire range of things, right down to psychiatric, like from the strictly psychiatric viewpoint as well, that there's two fundamental things that will work to your benefit in every single framework. So in just a psychiatric point of view, these things help. If there's something to the metaphysical, to the spiritual, to God, these things are important. If magic is real, these things are important. And that is, you need to decide for yourself if God is good, and or from the materialistic point of view, is existence meaningful, and are you willing to work towards the good? And it's a leap of faith. But when you make the leap of faith that God, whatever God is, by whatever definition, is good, and you look for that, mixed with treat honesty like a sacred tenet, and those two things help in every single scenario, are fundamental, especially if you're going to be involved in mysticism, or even the mysticism that you don't invite and don't want. If you're experiencing psychosis, that in the times in between the psychosis, to take a commitment to finding the good in existence, to taking the side of good, and you make a commitment to 100% honesty. Like, we all fail, but the goal is 100% honesty with yourself, with your like people in the real world, and with whatever psychotic delusions or internal archetypes you're interacting with. Spirituality helps you realize that you're not your mind. Yes, Sam Harris actually, his thoughts on meditation I find fantastic. And the way he says, but yes, there's a greater awareness behind our thoughts and our mind. And if you can move back and connect to that, sometimes during complete psychotic breaks, I'd get forced back into that and am observing myself. But if through meditation you can learn to observe your mind, observe your thoughts, observe your emotional states, not your true self, your higher self, your soul, detach that from it, rise above it, and observe it. Practicing this is very useful. And sometimes I can achieve a state where it's like whatever internal rage, the oncoming psychosis, mania, or suicidal depression, Sometimes it's like it doesn't lessen slightly. It's still whatever storm that envelops me. But it's like you can get up above the storm and observe it from a distance. And that helps immensely with coping with extreme states. Okay, you use the eating tip to stave off the upcoming spring mania. Yeah, eat heavier when you know you're getting manic. And yeah, and for anyone with bipolar, two things just to monitor are monitor your sleep. Pay attention to how much sleep you're getting. For me personally, as long as I'm getting at least 6 hours sleep before waking up, that's fine. And so if I'm feeling manic and it's like I sleep for 6 hours and jump up full of energy, I'm okay with that. But if it gets beneath 6, like if one night I get 5 and then the night after I get 4, I make sure to take to really eat a lot as much as I can all day, do grounding exercises to bring myself down, and definitely take my sleeping pills and get a better night's sleep. The other thing is, for me and a lot of people I've talked to, as you become manic, you feel less and less need to eat. The less you eat, the better you feel. It's very seductive, and fasting is a great spiritual practice to connect, to expand your consciousness. But those of us who are bipolar, that fasting can just launch us way too far out, way too fast. So when you're manic, force yourself to eat a bare, like set a certain minimum. But if you're really getting up there and sleeping less, start just eating absolutely as much as you can. Skylar says, right on. It definitely seems like going with what is good and honest brings forth the most reality. Yeah, that's one thing that when I discovered, and I mean, I'd come to this on my own. It actually initially came from even the first time I went completely psychotic and was living out this magical fucking adventure. Got hit by a bus, was all banged up, and entered a psychotic delusion that revelation was occurring. But along with all kinds of craziness came the idea that telling the truth was this absolute must, that it was the most important of the commandments. When I came out of that psychosis, I never fully shook that idea, and I started trying, even in my depression, to be more honest. My second psychosis just again flooded in the honesty thing was just ridiculously huge. And after that, because I went off into isolation for a couple years, had just all my supplies dropped off to me, I had a unique opportunity to really, really, really try to take a sacred vow of honesty, because it's much easier to do that when you don't have to talk to other people and you're just being honest with yourself. And it's just like the topic of truth and honesty, I think like deserves a good fucking 40-hour lecture by a group of the best minds. It's so important. I would love to see Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, because they both have excellent points about this. And they both like agree on how honest we should be. I'd love to see them work together and put out a long documentary explaining the importance of this. One thing that Peterson says and that I'd come up with on my own is just, first of all, in the most basic sense, every time you tell a lie, you're putting yourself at odds against all reality. Every single time you tell a lie, you make that aspect of reality, the truth of it, your opponent. And we are very fucking small, and we are just surrounded by so much immense consciousness and so much beyond our understanding that we really can't afford to set ourselves at odds with reality itself. And so if you were to use the example of, like, to make it sort of just really blatant, is if you want to lie about gravity, and claim that you can fly. You're going to end up like those people who have an LSD trip and actually believe that. To stick to your lie, you're eventually going to have to step off a cliff to prove it to everybody. And reality will not cooperate with your lie. You're going to go plummeting straight to the ground. On the other hand, if you always tell the truth, like to the best of your ability, none of us can tell the whole truth. We're all wrong. It's about not lying and telling the truth to the best of your ability. Then you put reality on your side. Sam Harris will make the point that you don't have to waste the mental energy remembering what your lies are and trying to keep them straight and cover for it. And that's a huge deal on its own. That amount of stress off of your brain, and the way that you can just trust that if you ever need to explain what you've said before, by simply stating the truth again, it's going to match what you once said. Another thing that I don't know if I've heard either of them discuss is the concept of decision fatigue. We all get decision fatigue during the day. And that idea of some genius scientists or CEOs wearing the same clothes every day, or the way Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory has his clothes, like his outfits, he has his Monday outfit, his Tuesday, his Wednesday. There really are people who are aware of decision fatigue, have jobs, some politicians, where they do have to make a lot of decisions. So they remove any decision making in the morning about what they wear by having it laid out for them or by having it all lined up and ready to go. And that way they don't have to waste any of their daily decisions on picking out their clothes. If you live with the option of lying, that means every time you encounter a difficult situation, the first thing you have to do is decide whether to lie or tell the truth. And if you have the option to lie, you can also make up a whole variety of lies, and you have to compare them and decide which is the best lie. And then you have to decide whether to tell the truth or not. And that's going to wear out. You're going to hit decision fatigue much earlier in the day if you're constantly deciding whether to tell the truth or not. On the other hand, if you take like just a sacred vow to tell the truth, you immediately remove all the decision about whether or not you need to lie. And it becomes much more simple. Instead of evaluating all the best lies that you can think of and evaluating the best way of telling the truth and having to compare all that, all you have to focus on is, what is the best way for me to tell the truth in this situation? And again, you don't do it to use your language to control the outcome. You use your language to try to be as honest as you can, and you trust the outcome that results. Okay, so it seems a bunch of stuff went by while I was rambling about that. Okay, so I don't know if I will answer every single one. Okay, you guys are talking to each other to a certain degree. Hello to Taryn Marine. Okay, so have a good night, Classic Anti-Zero. Glad you're going to stay subscribed, and maybe we will interact more in the future. Okay, Skylar's saying, especially when depression wipes your memory, which, yes, extreme states really affect our memory. It's heavenly to take refuge in the fact that you know you haven't gone against reality, and that to some extent it's got your back. Absolutely. Literature. What are some authors I really dig? Um, I love Alan Moore, both some of his old comic stuff. Like I loved his work on Swamp Thing, V for Vendetta, brilliant. Watchmen, absolutely brilliant. His newest book, or at least one of his newest books, Jerusalem, is absolutely his just best work so far. It's a huge book, but absolutely worth reading. It's mind-blowingly good. I like Peterson's Rules for Life, and I recently got Maps of Meaning, which I flipped through a bit, but haven't fully read. I really like, as far as fiction, I love Clive Barker. I love John Wyndham, science fiction, Isaac Asimov. I don't know. I'm blanking on other things at the moment, but that's at least a few. So someone says, it appears the world has gone fully absurd. Plate. The world's certainly getting very, very strange. And for me, 2009, I really locked myself away from the world. I live in Quebec, out in the middle of nowhere. I leave my house very, very rarely. I go outside in the nature, like I'm on a farm, but I don't go out in public much at all, a couple times a year at most. And I haven't been active in social media. I don't know a lot of people, and things have moved fast in the time that I stepped out, and the world has just gotten stranger and stranger from my perspective. And yeah, the further back you step from it, you begin seeing how odd it is in ways that you don't see when you're caught up in it. So Taryn Marine, Clive Barker was definitely great horror. Yeah, he was. And I love his paintings as well. And, he's such a nice guy. When I used to work with Troma Films, I went to, what was the name of the convention? Festival of Fear in Toronto one year. I was there with Lloyd Kaufman, and Clive Barker was there. And when I met him, I talked to him a bit and told him I worked with Troma, and he said that he knows, sometimes Troma had to work in LA, which is where his house is, and he keeps all his paintings in his house. Clive Barker was so fucking nice. He gave me his assistant's private number and told me that if I ever went to LA, he would arrange a tour of all the artwork in his house for me. And he said that if he was there, he'd show me around, but that he travels sometimes, and that if he wasn't in LA when I was, he would arrange to have somebody show me around his collection. And he had no fucking reason to offer all that. Clive Barker is such a cool guy. Have I ever been abducted by aliens? This is aliens answering. So is this just you checking to see if when you wiped my mind, it worked? Have you abducted me, wiped the memories, and you're just checking to make sure I don't remember? So if that's the case, don't worry. I do not remember being abducted by aliens. We still got 6 people watching. So what about you, aliens? Have you been abducting anybody? What is my view on the topic of truth? Yeah, I was talking about that a bit before. First of all, full truth is well beyond any of our ability to grasp. We can find partial truths. But that telling the truth to the best of your ability, or like Peterson says, at least don't lie, is absolutely fundamental. Like, it is life-changing to take that commitment to honesty. I'm sure I could go on for hours just about why not to lie. On the other hand, if you mean more, what's my view on the topic of truth, as in the way Peterson and Harris have been debating it, I don't see why they're so at odds about it. Sam Harris's idea that we need to separate scientific truth and fact from other kinds of truth, like, is accurate. We need to be clear when we are talking about scientific fact and truth. On the other hand, Peterson's idea that the more metaphorical moral truths, that the spiritual truths override scientific truths, I feel is also entirely valid, and that those work together, and that it's not that you're picking between the Petersonian way of looking at things and Harris's way. It's not like you pick which you're going to live by. Both of those are worth living by, and you just need to know which to apply at which time. Douglas Adams novels were funny. Yeah, I read all the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series when I was a teenager. I don't remember them that well now, but yeah, I loved them when I was like 13. I find it to have paradox. Okay, truth. Dust to dust. You find it to have paradoxical nature. Like, you can know some, but can't know it all. Absolutely. Also, on any one subject, the more you learn about it, just the more you realize you do not know. Truth grows and evolves as you search for it. And I think also, due to our limited understanding, we can find truths that seem to completely contradict other truths. And it would seem like only one of them can be true. But I think it's possible for contradictory truths to both be true in their own way, and there is just a larger perspective that we're not capable of understanding that makes sense of it all working together. Okay, so something Drake, to the moron talking, get a haircut. Yeah, I just don't shave or cut my hair all winter. So this is just my winter coat full. As soon as spring hits, I'm going to get sheared, and I don't know, I'll either be completely bald for the summer to enjoy the sun, or maybe if my wife wants me to, I'll leave a mohawk again this summer. Okay, so Dust to Dust says, a good way to ground my thoughts has been putting things into boxes of I don't know, because there are so many rabbit holes to go down. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't understand why people are so uncomfortable with I don't know, especially when you try to live honest. You're just going to find over and over that you're going to have to say I don't know. And you have to learn how to navigate when you don't know. So sometimes if you're looking at two different ways, two different frameworks, two different perspectives, and you don't know which is true or not. So for instance, free will. Say you can fully understand Sam Harris's point on free will, which, yeah, I 100% agree with his point. And yet you also understand Jordan Peterson's point of how do you, and again, I think actually Peterson's points on free will are far weaker than Sam's, but I think you could, with a bit of work, he could really improve his end. of his argument for free will. But if free will exists, it's some sort of mystery if you're taking seriously Sam Harris's point of view. And so it becomes not figuring out whether free will exists or not. You examine, if I follow the belief of free will not existing, and you examine that and figure out what it does to your thoughts, what it does to, like, how would you act if that were true? Then you examine the other end, and it's like if one of them is just counterproductive to your way of life, then go, and the other one is just, it motivates you, it keeps you honest, you go with the one that works for you on how it affects you. Or you may find that it's useful to juggle back and forth between them. One way I've worked with, for example, that uncertainty is I examine, like, do we have any choice at all? Are we just living out something completely predetermined? Are we never actually making decisions, but just feeling like we make decisions? And you could talk for hours about that. Like, aside from what Sam Harris has to say, I could add more to that. It's an incredible case for why we don't have free will whatsoever. This is all just happening. We're experiencing it and thinking we have choice. On the other hand, I do believe that free will does exist in some mysterious way. You've got to get more metaphysical, and it gets more into God and the nature of consciousness and free will. But after a long time playing with this, the way I decided to operate, since I don't know which, is I find it extremely useful to look at the past as though nobody had any choice and had to live out those roles. To look at the present of, like, the moment I'm in now, that I need to be in this moment, that it was meant to happen. But that when I look at the future, I assume I have at least a certain amount of free will and can affect it. And if you think about it just from a practical point of view, when you are experiencing now, all of the past is done. You know, if you once had some control or free will over it, you no longer do. So the past doesn't involve free will in a way, in that sense. Your present moment is always exactly what it is. And in fact, what you experience as the present moment is a millisecond in the past. Or further, when you look at the moon, you're seeing the moon a full second ago. When you're looking at the sun, you're seeing it 8 minutes ago. And when you're looking at stars, you're looking years into the past. But this moment that you're experiencing is actually the slight past, and you can never change it. If you're sitting right now, you can never change that. You can decide to get up, and in a moment, you won't be sitting. But you can never change the present moment. In the present moment, you can decide what will change next. But then once that change is occurring and you're experiencing that, you no longer have any choice over that. And so if we do have any free will, in that manner, it's only from here forward. And obviously, we don't have unlimited free will. But by looking at it this way, I find it easier to... Okay, if you're always looking back on the past as I could have done this differently, I could have done that differently, you're looking for why it shouldn't have been as it was. It just takes you down useless dead-end paths in your mind. If instead you look at the past as it had to be that way, why did it have to be that way? You will find meaning in it. You will... Also makes it easier to forgive people. When... You know, like Sam Harris says, if we fully understood just the psychology of the person and the situation they were in, we would see they had no choice whatsoever. That makes it much more easy to be forgiving and to accept the present moment. But then by assuming you have at least some agency in the future, you can still set plans and try to use your willpower to exercise whatever free will you do have. Okay, it looks like a lot of people might be talking back and forth to each other, which that is cool. Yeah, another thing I think would be cool with the channel is if either in the chats or in the comment sections, or as we have more people on, I would love to see a bit more community development, where if you guys are interested in similar topics and we're all aimed towards the good, and honest people, I see no reason we can't have lots of positive interactions with each other in the comment section. Okay, so there's a pragmatic sense to some truth. But higher the resolution the question gets, there's a point where you have to admit the limitation to figuring things out. Yes, absolutely. All right, I don't know. I've been on for a while now. I have no idea if any of this was really useful or if this is worth leaving up or not. I'll leave it up for now, and I'll let Ryan make the decision. If he thinks this wasn't any good, we'll take it down. If not, I guess we'll probably leave it up. Anyone else have any last things they want to say before we shut this down? Dust to Dust was fun. Thanks for the chat. Yeah, this was nice. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciated your contributions. Sounds like you have a lot of interesting things to say. And yeah, for anyone who is active in the chat or anyone who watches this after, just write. If anyone's interested in talking to me or Ryan or both of us on the channel, either about what you're doing, sorting yourself out, or discussing philosophical ideas, just write to the channel and we'll get back to you. But I think this went all right. And so I hope everyone has a good night. Lunatic love to y'all.